You're my thunder of my darkest night. You just can't go back and make it right. 'Cause it's too late, your time is up. Damage done and now it's stuck. 'Cause it's too late, you roll the dice, and now you have to pay the price. Yeah, I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. Say it again, say it again. You're saying you feel bad, so say it again. Only you can do that. My heart was open wide. I could feel it breaking deep inside. 'Cause it's too late, your time is up. Damage done and now we're stuck. 'Cause it's too late, you roll the dice, and now you have to pay the price. Oh, I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one. I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, I'm not even sorry. You're gonna be the lonely one.
There's nothing that I can say or do, and it seems that words won't change a lot. How can I make it through to you when these silly little words are all that I've got? We can try to just pretend I could hold you once again, 'cause I'm scared of feeling lost tonight. When I wake up, it's you that I think of. It's true, it's so obvious, but I'm holding back because you don't want me like I want you. You don't feel me like I feel you. Oh no. And I must confess that you don't touch me like I touch you. Never blush, baby, when I kiss you, but you don't. And I must confess that I wish I'd find someone new and forget about you. 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 There's only so much that we can save, like a storyline and a few cliches. When we break up, it's true that I'm making up, it's through. I don't wanna pass the buck, but we're in this place because you don't want me like I want you. You don't feel me like
And welcome back to the UnBossed Network. Coming up today, me and Kwesi have a mirage of stories to cover from the Columbus City Council considering to limit no-knock warrants. We'll have that coming up tonight. Also, we will be speaking with Pastor Michael Young later in the show about the coronavirus and the Black Church. And then, if we didn't have enough crazy Karens already, a crazy Karen went after the mayor of Chicago. We'll have all that and much, much more to come. And plus, we're following some late, sad breaking news. We'll have all that in just moments. Let's roll, y'all.
Now listen here on the Unbought and Unbossed show with Devontae Goins. He's here to skip past all the drama by reporting on news stories that are relevant to Black America without all the hyped up false context that drives ratings. Our news deserves special attention, and Devontae intends on giving it that attention right here on this show. Right now, this is the Unbought and Unbossed show with Devontae Goins.
All right, welcome to the show. So we begin today with some breaking news. The civil rights legend and icon, Dr. Reverend C.T. Vivian, passed away at the age of 95. Dr. Vivian, he was pivotal in the civil rights movement, but not just a pivotal figure there, but he was also one of Dr. King's best friends. And a few years ago, I had the opportunity to spend almost a week with him, just sitting there talking with him. Really, I was doing more listening and writing down and recording what he was saying, because he had come to speak at Wittenberg's MLK Day celebration back in 2015. I went back to look at that article today, and I was just almost brought to tears when thinking about it. I have it pulled up right here, and I want to read you a quick piece out of that article, and then me and Quiz are going to have a talk here in a second about us really losing our leaders and the whole civil rights movement we're going through. But here, let me just read this. During our time with the legendary activist, he shared one of his favorite stories about an experience he had with Dr. King. And I quote, "Martin would often tell someone in the executive staff to run the meeting, and he would just sit back every now and then and ask the question. Always when we would get to that point where we thought we were ready to go out and get the work done, Martin would ask the question that we hadn't thought of or that we hadn't asked. So we settled down, and it was one of those oh no moments, and we would all come back together and answer the question. Then we would look at Martin to see if it was a good enough answer. When Martin didn't have any other questions, and we had asked all the questions we were going to ask, we would be ready to go. Then we could go out and get the work done," unquote. But one of what really messed me up when spending that much time with him, man, we went to Red Lobster and ate. We went to a couple different places. I absolutely had a ball spending time with him and his business partner and his one of his best friends, Don Rivers, who I confirmed to the press today that he had passed away. But we went to Red Lobster and everything like that. But what messed me up, man, was every time I would say, "Tell me a little bit about Dr. King," he would say, "Well, Martin." And keep in mind, I studied philosophy in college, and so I'm trying to like really think deep about things, but that just messed me up right there. Yeah. And you heard how he referred. He was like, "Martin said."
Yeah, that's when to be in the presence of people like that. You kind of got on me before we started recording. I wasn't familiar with the, tell me his name again?
Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, just to know that he marched with Dr. King, and there were a lot of people, as I'm, just kind of learning about that entire story, you learn that there were a lot of really important figures. I actually had the opportunity to meet Elder Harry Belafonte in 2010, I believe it was. And it was a similar experience. He was referring to some of those people that I was reading by their first name. And it was just, it was an amazing experience. We were at the Fawcett Center, and he did a speech in front of a few hundred people maybe. And then he invited myself and maybe 7 or 8 other people back to his suite. We got like a private lecture. And to be put into that lineage of people that have been doing such phenomenal work is a very humbling experience. So I can imagine, just being able to be in that, be able to soak up that environment is something that you can take when you're going out in the streets every night and protesting.
Right. And not too many things set me down. I was actually walking into a meeting when was reading the wires, and this came across the wire that he had passed away, and I just sat down. I looked for the nearest chair, and my legs, and it was like a gut punch. Like, wow. Because we're truly losing our icons and legends who paved the way for us. Well, one other thing he said about Dr. King was this, and I quote: "Martin was great to work with and the right person to lead the movement." He went on to share with me, Dr. King, he wasn't hard to please, and he always asked a lot of questions. And those firsthand accounts and firsthand stories we have to document and make sure that people really know them, and just to have that opportunity to I've had the opportunity to sit down and speak and interview several people who were there on the day of August 28th, 1963, when Dr. King gave his infamous speech. I've talked to people who was on the dais. Dr. King had, from everybody, and C.T. Vivian even told me this. He said, Devontae, Dr. King had given that speech at least 10, 12 times before that I Have a Dream speech. He said it really didn't become pivotal until Mahalia Jackson, the infamous gospel singer, hollered out in that call and response saying, "Martin, tell him about the dream. Martin, tell him about the dream." Because the I Have a Dream speech, if we're putting it in proper context, it was an economic speech. But people, they don't remember the beginning part of the speech, but they sure do remember the last 3-4 minutes of the speech.
And if I recall, he kind of like freelance that part, the I Have a Dream part.
Yes, it was ad-libbed by him. Something you truly don't see, and that's why the call and response and things of that nature, it was just an amazing time to be there and to hear that account from multiple people our age, our age back then. I had the opportunity to talk to, and they were part of the SNCC movement and SCLC. But that's one of the things that I love and that I don't love about this third civil rights movement that we're in right now, or the modern day civil rights movement, is that we don't have any leaders.
Actually, I wanted to go in that direction. You got me. It's two things that you just put in my mind. We're gonna have to go in the direction. I want to know more about the third civil rights, how we got to the third one. I know a lot of people are probably familiar with the 60s being the first one. Well, let's hold up on that. I want to before I lose this other thought that was already on my mind, because it was mentioned that Dr. King was a great listener and that he was a natural leader. And we're losing our leaders, so obviously, we need people to be stepping into those positions and be the leaders moving into this next, the third civil rights movement. So what do you see now when we're looking around? You see all of these organizations, and we see a lot of people, that are moving marches and maybe getting people to come to protest. But what is your outlook when we think about leadership in this phase of the civil rights movement?
That's a good question. Well, that's a good question and a loaded question all at the same time. But when you think about something like that and you take that question about leadership, you have to think at what leadership is in the core. What qualifies a person to be a leader? And until you think about that and figure that out, like I can say a lot of people are leaders. They just don't assume that leadership role in a public way. But there are a lot of people taking the charge and having conversations. Like, let me give you an example. Last night, we were covering a protest that we couldn't bring you live. Well, it wasn't even a protest. It was a community block party, in a sense, on the south side of Columbus. And this one young lady, I'm not going to mention her name, but because an incident had transpired 2 nights ago, where people showed up, but they showed up, got the community out there, a cop rode up, and she stepped up and just wanted to talk to him. Now, there were a couple people who didn't like that she wanted to talk to him, but Yeah, black folks, but
Or the person that went to talk to the cop was also a black woman?
yeah, yeah, and she went to talk to him peacefully and respectfully, but a couple others didn't like that, and I was all for it. They're respecting us, respecting her, and they just wanted to have a peaceful conversation, and then they ended up coming to join in some ways, and I thought that was interesting. So in that moment, she wasn't a leader in the physical sense, like a Dr. King type of leader, but she was a leader in that moment.
So what do you say about some of these organizations? I think Be Quick comes to mind. I'm not sure exactly what their leadership model is, but I'm sure I do know for certain that Yes We Can, they don't necessarily have identified leadership structures or models.
Yeah,
it's more kind of
yeah, and that's the church.
I guess.
Yeah, and
is that a working model? Does that model work?
I don't know. And that's a good question, and that we're working our way through right now, and is trying to figure out what the new normal is, not just with COVID, but in the civil rights era that we're going through, this era of change that we're moving through. And you asked earlier the question of why do I call this the third civil rights movement? Because you got to keep in mind, right after the slaves were free during the first Reconstruction, during the 1880s, I believe, for about 12 to 13 years, that was the first civil rights movement. The second one is the one that we all know and quote and read about in the history books that Dr. King and C.T. Vivian and everybody was a part of. And this third one is going on right in front of us. Now, what will this third one bring about? I have no idea, but I'm just happy that when it comes time to read about it in the history books, I'll be able to share stories about how we covered it and how we were there witnessing it and documenting it and things like that.
Sound like you got a little bit of context, a little bit of a historian. So what do you know about? Because I'm a novice. History is fascinating, but there's so much of it, right?
True.
So right after, so this is the Reconstruction period. That's what you're calling the first civil rights era, essentially.
Yeah. Okay. Because keep in mind what a lot of people don't tell you, but you have to do some research. But during that time period in the late 1800s, right after slavery ended and things like that, there were black senators.
Right.
But and black people were doing very, very well. But we don't talk about that.
Okay. So what about God, I just lost my thought. Keep going.
Well, we obviously could talk about this, but our heart goes out to the Vivian family and everybody who knew him well and dearly. And we have mad love and respect. We're losing a lot of the leaders, and I'm glad a lot of people our age is stepping up to ascend to the new role of leadership. So, switching gears here a little bit, something interesting happened yesterday. Columbus City Council, they had a council meeting last night about these no-knock warrants and whether they're going to limit them or whether they're going to ban them altogether. I want to play this really quick news clip from NBC4 so we can talk about it and so the viewers can have more context.
New at 11, the use of no-knock warrants is being questioned after the death of Breonna Taylor in Louisville back in March. No-knock warrants have been banned there. And NBC4's Eric Halperin is live outside Columbus City Hall tonight. And Eric, the city is now taking a hard look at those kinds of warrants too, right?
Colleen, City Council plans to vote on 4 police reform-related proposals in about a week and a half. One of those proposals is about limiting or banning no-knock warrants. And tonight, Council questioned and talked to police about those warrants. With a no-knock warrant, police do not have to knock or announce their presence before going into a building. In Columbus, the SWAT team and Investigative Tactical Unit, or INTAC, can perform these kinds of warrants.
I think the surprise factor gives us a tactical advantage, and it takes away the opportunity for the suspect to consider other options or to get to their guns in order to engage in a gun battle.
The SWAT team did not do any no-knock warrants in 2019. According to Columbus Police, the INTAC unit, which focuses on drug cases, served 331 warrants in 2019. 92 of them, or about 28%, were no-knock, and no suspects were injured.
Not serving no-knock warrants also allows dangerous suspects to continue their drug trafficking activity, plaguing neighborhoods.
We want to remove drugs and weapons that are unlawfully possessed out, get them off of the streets. But I also don't want that to be at the expense of a resident's, one of our residents' life or the life of an officer.
During Thursday's virtual hearing, counsel questioned police about why not waiting for suspects to come out, who else is in a suspected house, and what's done to ensure police have the correct address.
Legislating away no-knock warrants will increase danger to both our employees and the public.
Councilmember Emmanuel Ramey led Thursday's hearing.
They've done better than what might have been seen in other municipalities, for instance. However, I think there's opportunity to tighten it up. At this point, we're looking probably more along the lines of limiting. I mean, there are certainly extenuating circumstances where no-knock warrants make sense.
And Deputy Chief Becker said a suspect has not been fatally shot in decades during a no-knock warrant, and that officers have been shot and injured 5 times. Body cams were also talked about tonight. Becker says that right now the INTAC unit and SWAT teams do not use body cameras, but they are requesting council's approval to get them. Local for you at City Hall, I'm Eric Halpern, NBC Forward.
All right.
So the summation of that is they're considering it, but what got me is what the deputy chief said, that they don't want to quite get rid of them because they use them as a tactical advantage. But if that's what police departments utilize no-knock warrants for as a tactical advantage, what tactical advantage did they have over Breonna Taylor when they put all those bullets in her?
Yeah, I mean, tactical advantage that's a completely different conversation than making the right call, you know, because a tactical advantage could also mean that you have your gun pointed at somebody who's now reaching for a gun. So now it's a life and death situation. So you have to pull the trigger. And then you can only sort it out after the smoke clears to find out that, hey, you just killed somebody that you weren't even looking for.
No, but you know what's interesting is that the deputy chief also said in that to council last night, or to the committee, whichever you choose to call them, he said, and I quote, I'm reading it verbatim as how he said it, that a suspect has not been fatally shot in decades during no-knock warrants, and that 5 detectives have been shot. So is it right that they can do no-knock warrants and not kill anybody? Is basically what he's saying, that you can do a no-knock warrant. We're going to continue to do them here in Columbus because nobody's been killed in all these years, but our detectives have, so we're going to continue to do them. Or am I taking that out of context?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much sounds like the logic that he was using, the logical progression of his argument. Yeah.
Now, I should note that he also did say what happened in Louisville, Kentucky, with Breonna Taylor being murdered was a horrible tragedy. But he also threw shade on the situation, and he didn't quote her name. He threw shade at the situation by saying, but things are not done here like they were in Louisville.
So what do you think would have happened if Breonna would have happened to been able to get the drop on the officers and would have killed one of the officers? And by some miracle or some turn of situation.
What do you mean by if Breonna was able to get the drop?
Well, let's just imagine that they did the no-knock, and then somehow or another, the people in the house were able to defend themselves, killing an officer, and the rest of the officers retreated. I'm saying, given that scenario, so the people in the house live in this scenario, are they then charged with murder, do you think?
Of course. they were black.
So
They were going to be charged with murder.
Mm.
Do you see those? The officer that put the bullets in there? Do you see any of them? Have they been fired? Have they been arrested? It's been over 100 days. So we could play devil's advocate all day, but this story isn't getting enough attention about Breonna Taylor. And that's why we need to continue to push it and to talk about it in whatever way we can. Just keep getting that out there, because people need to know that the Louisville Police Department, they murdered an innocent woman for no reason. But not only did they murder her, they have still yet to do anything major to rectify that problem by arresting, or let alone not even arresting, but by just charging the officer who did it. They said, yeah, we'll get to it. We might not, but we know they aren't getting to it. Been over 100 days. I rest my case. Any final comments right here?
So how does that translate to Columbus? I mean, obviously we have no-knock warrants that are being executed in Columbus, but do you think that, given that people haven't been killed in Columbus in over a decade, is there a reasonable pushback? Should people in Columbus be upset? Where should we be?
No, personally, I don't think in any city no-knock warrants should be done. Personally, because they are dangerous, both for both parties, for the police department and their highly trained officers, and for the people on the other side of the door. Because also, what happens is, with no-knock warrants, is there's a couple other things that, just like what happened in Breonna's situation, you got to make sure you got the right address. And if all you're told is this kingpin drug dealer is on the opposite side of that door, or put it to you this way. If I told you Osama bin Laden was on the other side of the studio door and you were the police, and I said I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt he was there, would you knock or would you take it?
Take it?
Like just taking the door, no knock.
If who was on the other side of the door?
I just threw out the name Osama bin Laden.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of
and you're the police. Maybe too far out there example, but it still gets to the point of what I'm making, whether it's Osama bin Laden or an EMT like Breonna Taylor. We, the police, they need to understand that no-knock warrants, you shouldn't do them. There's too much risk involved. Now, last year, it's worth noting, in 2019, there were 331 warrants served here in Columbus. And out of those, 92 of them were no-knock warrants. So that's 3.5% roughly. A little more than 3.5%, right around that. Were no-knock warrants, and no suspects were injured.
Well, it sounds like we got some people, city council members, on board. Shayla Favors, says it's something that if it is going to be amended, this is the time to do it. I guess she's referring to the protests and everything.
Yeah, but why did somebody have to lose their life for them to?
Well, I mean, it's not an issue until it's an issue, right?
True, and this is what needs to change. There needs to be overwhelming, and this has been said for years, overwhelming police reform done, but nobody wants to have that conversation. And when we talk about defund,
what do you mean when you say nobody wants to have that conversation? Who are the people? Because some people do.
No, when I say nobody, who I'm referring to is the people who can change it. So, like city council, it came right out of her mouth that now is the time to have the conversation. Well, only reason she believes now is the time to have the conversation is because Breonna Taylor is dead. But what if, for example, what if this happened to one of her nieces or nephews or sisters or something like that? Or what if it was Shayla Favors herself, a sitting councilwoman? it's too late to have the conversation once somebody's gone. But like you just said, it's not a problem until it's a problem, even though it's a problem.
Right. So we also see the deputy police chief saying it's a bad idea that is going to put employees, I'm assuming he's talking about officers, in danger. But even though it seems like officers are the people who are being put in the most danger by the, but obviously people in their homes, statistically, you could say
I'm
officers are
gonna
also
tell you,
running into a dangerous situation.
if based off the neighborhood that I live in, it's a good neighborhood. Been living there my whole life. It's not your 992010 neighborhood. It's not Bexley or nothing like that, but it's good. We know each other. We love each other. If the police roll up on my house at 3 in the morning and take our door, I'm going to do exactly what Breonna Taylor's boyfriend did and defend our house. Because it's not the issue of them knocking, but it's the issue of them announcing themselves. That's what's got me so riled up. Is all right, you don't knock. That's fine and dandy, but you need to be saying it's police, or something. Make your presence known, and that's the real issue with these no knock warrants. Is that your presence isn't made known.
Well, what it's ultimately doing is letting us know that police don't really have any checks and balances. They can do whatever they want. And I hear you when we're talking about the city council members and the people that people that have the power to make legislative changes. But we also seen what happened, how quick we started seeing reform in Minnesota when a few days of peaceful protesting. How that can kind of just change the narrative, But I mean, I'm not.
No, but they had the thing about that and why we seen change so quickly is because that was the second brother who had to die. We cannot forget about brother Philando Castro.
Well, yeah, I'm not exactly, and I'm not advocating violence. I'm just. I'm making a point.
No, I know you aren't advocating violence, but here, let's put it like,
make things happen. We ultimately, as citizens, have a voice that there's 50 times more citizens than all the police, elected officials, even the military.
Yeah, here, I'm put it to you this way. Sometimes, man, we can't be Dr. King. Sometimes you got to be Stokely Carmichael, SNCC, Black Panthers, and Malcolm X all in one to see some change done. That's just the way it is. You have to adapt Malcolm's mantra by any means necessary.
Absolutely. Because people are literally dying. Like this is a conversation about life and death. And it's interesting that I'm actually kind of blown away that people are still talking about peaceful protests when we're talking about homicide. It's like on one side we're talking about murders, and people are peacefully asking to stop being murdered. But that's not going to always be the case.
Exactly, and I'm gonna show a video here later on in the show about the LAPD and how they just obliterated this man in his wheelchair and really didn't care. And that same thing is going on right now in the Columbus Police Department. I'm telling you how much I've seen, and all cops aren't bad. Don't get me wrong; all cops are not bad. I have family that are police officers here within CPD. All cops are not bad. It's just those one or two that are. But for example, when we're out there tomorrow, case in point, we're going to see the police taking and doing whatever the hell they want to do at that rally / protest tomorrow.
We're going to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be an interesting day.
We're going to be live down there the whole time. We're going to take them alone. We are.
Just in case people aren't aware, tomorrow there's going to be a march at the same time, same place, with a Black Panther group, I think, is organizing one of the marches. And I actually saw the group that alt-right is what I'm going to call them. I'm not exactly sure.
They are the KKK.
They were described as the KKK.
They are the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys are the KKK.
Hoping that it's not.
No.
Check this out.
Let's not sugarcoat it.
There's this guy that's running for Congress. He's actually challenging Joyce Beatty in the congressional race in November, and you know, I met him. He seemed like a okay dude. He did say some kind of Trumpian things, you know. But I like to, especially
Hey, he's giving him the benefit
just
of
hear
the
me out.
doubt.
As you know, I worked on a campaign in this past in the primary, in the, this year's primary. So I have a reason to pay a lot of attention to what's going on in Congress, and I am unsatisfied with our current congressional leadership. Very supportive of Morgan Harper, obviously. So then Mark Richardson found out he's running as a Republican, and I'm not the person that's necessarily bound to any party.
I'm with you. Same thing.
So I wanted to give the guy a fair shake, and just see what his platform was, see what kind of person he was. And I met him, decent guy. But then when I found out that he's speaking at this alt-right event, that kind of puts a different. I'm not sugarcoating or giving the guy a pass or anything. I'm just wanting to give everybody some perspective from my point of view. He seemed like
the KKK,
decent individual.
They seem. What do you think they do? They try and cover it up until you can't cover that up.
Well, I know some people that are not happy about it, and they said they're not going to be maybe speaking to him moving forward. So who knows?
Hey, I'll leave that. We'll take it. We'll leave this discussion here. We're back right after this. Yeah, we'll leave that there.
Welcome to Cardwell Mobile Notary Service. I'm Leandra Cardwell. I run a full-service mobile notary company. We specialize in apostille, loan closings, structured settlements, and more. Wherever you are, I'll be there. Even in your home, I'll be there. At the hospital, I'll be there. Nursing homes, I'll be there. At the library, I'll be there. Coffee shops, you pick, and I'll be there. And yes, even remotely too, I'll be there. Just submit a request on our website. Don't forget to locate us on Facebook and give us a call at 614-999-0149, and I'll be there.
If you're tired of mainstream media outlets selecting news stories and events that don't appeal to Black America, then become a member of the UnBossed Network today, where we are the voice of Black America and providing coverage of events and news stories that you won't hear anywhere else. Visit theunbossednetwork.com to become a member today.
So, Governor DeWine vetoed a bill that is limiting penalties for health order violations. Basically, the summation of this is DeWine said, hey, look, days ago that I'm going to veto this. What the bill did is it was sponsored by State Senator Teresa Grovone, I'm sorry, she has an awkward last name, Teresa Grovone, who is a Bowling Green Republican. That's in Northwest Ohio. And this bill, I'm trying to take my time and to explain it because this makes no sense why he vetoed it. And we're going to talk about this here in a moment. But her bill that she sponsored and put on the floor, and it was passed and sent to the governor to sign. What it would have done is it would have allowed fines to not have been more than $100 for violating a local order, and no more than $150 for violating a state order. But DeWine today said, hey, look, I know we're in the same party, we're fellow Republicans, and yada, 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 X, Y, and Z. But this bill, this legislation, is a tragic mistake that would keep governments from taking bold action against the COVID-19 crisis. So, my question is this. If people barely can pay their bills right now, how would they be able to pay thousands of dollars in fines for not wearing a mask if they could barely put food on their table right now with COVID?
I guess playing the devil's advocate, maybe that's the point, is to get people to wear a mask.
No, yeah, and I'm all for it, but then there's people that like have serious health problems, like my mother, for example. She can't put on a mask because of a few different health problems. One mainly being she can't breathe, and then she gets really bad, starts hyper anxiety and all of that. And that's a health problem. Now, I encourage and I implore everybody to put on your down mask. I've said it before and I'll continue to say it. Wear a down mask that will protect you and protect other people. But we have to have that real conversation and know that some people, they just can't wear masks because of health reasons. But what DeWine did was reckless at best today. Even if he is trying to get people's attention, what he did was reckless. I would almost call it negligible at best. And people can't afford to pay their bills, put food on the table, or do any of this. But yet,
I don't think I'm getting it exactly. So explain again what exactly. So he vetoed a bill that would
lower, make the costs for those violations reasonable.
Okay.
So any local municipality or local government would only be able to charge people $100 for violating health orders for wearing masks.
Right.
And if they violated a state order, which a state mandate hasn't been put in place yet, Mike DeWine. So if you're going to do this, you might as well put an order into effect to make everybody wear masks. But the summation of it is her bill also allowed the state would have allowed it to become law that the state couldn't charge more than $150 for violating this order.
Yeah, they're all over the place. We don't have leadership as far as coronavirus is concerned. It's that the fact that we have two very adamant directions. People are going in very opposite directions. Leadership on both sides. One is saying you don't have to wear a mask, even though we're starting to see the president he's starting to wear a mask.
Don't get me started on
the other side.
Don't get me started on that, man.
On the other side, there's this mandate to wear a mask. So, I wear a mask. When I go out, I wear a mask. It's kind of ridiculous. We're just seeing nobody's being decisive right now. And we have 1/4 of all of the planet's cases. So where this is going, it's still increasing. I think we're averaging like 60,000 new cases a day nationally.
Yeah. Right here in Ohio, 66,540 people as of this morning were confirmed cases of COVID. Almost 67,000 people. Now, nearly 3,000 people have lost their lives to this.
But it's still like 1% though. So what are your thoughts about that when they're saying that less than 1% of the people are dying? And a lot of pushback for the anti-maskers.
Yeah, less than 1% is dying, but this coronavirus is going to be around for a while.
What's a while?
I don't know. Do you see a vaccine for it? How can they come up with a vaccine when they really don't know what they're fighting?
So
are creating
like
a vaccine?
Months? A year?
No,
years?
year. I'm talking a couple of years. The last big global pandemic, the Spanish flu in 1918, was around for 2 years, man.
And the second spike will really got people too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There will be another spike because the problem with COVID-19 is that it presents like the flu. That's the main problem. It presents like the flu. And flu season is knocking at the door, and it'll be here in a couple weeks before we know it.
That's getting into a whole nother conversation, man. Like this winter is going to be interesting when we see, for one, again, tip of my hat, much respect to all the protesters been out there for, I think it's 50 days, but yeah, that's another.
No, it's day 49. Tomorrow will be day 50. It's day 49.
So, but how does that play out? As we, there's so many like open tabs. How do all of these things, and they all affect each other? How do all of these things converge? How do all these things resolve? It's like a movie. Like we're watching a movie that we're also co-starring in.
Sure.
And all of these things, there's like all of these open plots, and they all overlap. It's very fascinating. It's terrifying. It's very fascinating.
fascinating and terrifying.
Fascinating.
I just don't know where we go from here. I don't.
I don't think DeWine does either, so at least you're not by yourself.
All right, let's switch issues here. So, have you ever heard of a governor suing a mayor?
Well, we talked a little bit about it earlier.
Yeah, suing the mayor. The governor of Georgia is suing the Atlanta mayor, Keisha Lance Bottom. You want to know why he's suing her?
I can't wait.
So, Georgia governor, who's a Republican, Brian Kemp, is suing Atlanta mayor, who's a Democrat, Keisha Lance Bottom, for enforcing a mandate to wear a mask in public amid this crisis. See, y'all thought we were done talking about Corona, but
so
no.
Wait, we have a Republican governor suing a Democratic mayor, and the mayor is a black woman.
Yes.
And the Republican governor is a white man.
Yes. Hey, let's get rid of this banner right here. Check this tweet out. She tweeted out 3,104 Georgians have died, and I and my family are amongst the 106,000 who have tested positive for COVID-19. Meanwhile, I have been sued by the Georgia governor for a mask mandate. A better use of taxpayer money would be to expand testing and contact tracing. And then she posted the lawsuit right there.
So Georgia is one of the new epicenters, right?
Yes.
So what is going on here? How is there? DeWine is a Republican, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
he's one of the better ones.
He's one of the more, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the better ones. Moderate. It's not better. He's more of the moderate.
Kemp's phone number? You might need to get them in touch.
No, I don't think DeWine. It may give DeWine a hard time, but DeWine, he's not that bad. He's not that bad, man.
That's ridiculous. We're what?
It is.
How many months into COVID are we? I mean, January is when it was. I mean, it was a thing last year, but it was a thing in America no later than February. So that's
but believe it or not, this was in America, and we didn't even realize it, because back in February, my mother was hospitalized for 2.5 weeks. We now know it was probably COVID, but they didn't know what like it had shut her body down. She was in the ICU and everything for a few days, and then even to go in and see her, if she wanted a cup of anything, you had to get suited, booted, everything, and they even called in the CDC because they didn't know what was attacking her body. And all, yeah. So, COVID has been around longer than what we think. We just didn't know what to call it or what it was. Well, yeah, we were already calling it Corona back then, but still, we didn't know what really to direction or whatever.
Do you think that it's ridiculous for people to think that even in November, people in the United States could have been exposed?
No.
People who are kind of convinced that they had it in November.
Yeah, and I could see that. I it's not hard to believe anymore.
That's saying a lot about this virus, man. We still don't know anything about it.
No, we don't. At best, we know that it's important to put on a mask. But I'm really looking forward here in a few minutes to be joined by Pastor Michael Young, who is a pastor here in Columbus, Ohio, to talk about COVID in the Black church and why Black churches are still persistent on having church in person. Yeah, I'm not leaving a pause for dramatic effect. It's,
I mean, hey, if you're going to heaven, hey, you ain't, might as well.
But we'll leave that conversation for him. Any final thoughts on this ridiculousness? It's crazy. And you know what's even more crazy is that the complaint, the lawsuit, was 124 pages. 124.
So
what a waste of paper.
In court?
Yeah, they're gonna. Court will probably be virtual, I would assume. But
well, he should have to show up.
No, what would happen is with people like them, they'll send their attorneys and things like that.
No, well, I'm saying, like, you know, if he's so confident that there's no COVID and he doesn't need to wear a mask, I want him to demonstrate how confident he is.
But see, the governor tweeted out. We don't have that tweet here, but I have it up. He tweeted out. a nice little something. He said, and this is what he had to say in a tweet about the lawsuit, that this lawsuit is on behalf of the Atlanta business owners and their hardworking employees who are struggling to survive during these difficult times. These men and women are doing their very best to put food on their table for their families while local elected officials shutter businesses and undermine economic growth.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the whole the narrative now is we're seeing that. What would they call them? The people that have to go to work.
Essential workers.
Essential workers.
Yes.
Essential workers are the people that are making minimum wage and are also the people that are keeping our country afloat.
True.
How do we?
But you want to? I'm not even going to get into that whole conversation right there. But what I will say is that her fine, if you violate that mandate for not wearing a mask in Atlanta, is $500.
That's like a paycheck for an essential worker.
Yeah. But if you're essential, you should know at this point that you need to be wearing a mask. I commend and I applaud her for enforcing that. I mean, I give Ginther a lot of flack around here, and I'm not afraid to say fire the mayor and fire the chief, who's Thomas Quinlan. But in this case, Ginther making the enforcement that he didn't go far enough. But I do agree everybody should be wearing a mask. Is it uncomfortable and things like that? Yes, but it could potentially save your life.
Yeah, I mean, you get used to it after a while.
Yeah, so.
Well, I guess this is one of those times where I'm proud to be an Ohioan.
We'll be right back after this.
Welcome to Cardwell Mobile Notary Service. I'm Leandra Cardwell. I run a full-service mobile notary company. We specialize in apostille, loan closings, structured settlements, and more. Wherever you are, I'll be there. Even in your home, I'll be there. At the hospital, I'll be there. Nursing homes, I'll be there. At the library, I'll be there. Coffee shops, you pick, and I'll be there. And yes, even remotely too, I'll be there. To submit a request on our website, don't forget to locate us on Facebook and give us a call at 614-999-0149, and I'll be there.
All right, welcome back. So I said I had a video I wanted to share with you all earlier out of LA. And this happened 2 days ago on the 15th. Some LA police officers thought it was all right to knock a disabled black protester. At this point, I don't even care that he's black. Is that the fact of the matter is that he was disabled. He depended on his wheelchair to get around. They decided to knock him out of it. Then they commenced on breaking it. So this disabled man, he was targeted by the police. They claim he allegedly punched an officer. Let's take a look at this, man. This is ridiculousness. It's ridiculous and unconscionable. But yet, it's going on. It's happening. What were your thoughts on that?
It reminded me of something I saw in Columbus a few weeks ago. Well, I guess it was about a month ago now. Somebody, I think, a paraplegic, or somebody with prosthetic legs, I believe it was.
Yeah, but he it wasn't right what they did to him, but he did later. We saw actual footage. He did kind of cause that on himself. Was it right what either party did? No, but here clearly he didn't do anything.
Yeah, I definitely didn't see any punches thrown. I seen his arms.
But did you see?
flailing.
Yeah, but did you see what they did to his chair?
Yeah,
and
that
those
was pretty
things are expensive. So my mother last year had a stroke, was in a hospital for a month and a half, and we had to get a customized, spec'd out wheelchair. She doesn't use it much anymore. She's pretty much back to normal. But that customized chair, a chair like they brought, costs easily $5,000 because you got to get the right type of wheels, the cushion, because that's your mode of transportation.
Yeah, they definitely just disrespected my man's vehicle.
Yeah, and they even walked up to two of the protesters walked up to the officers to say, "Hey, don't do that." What to the chair, and of course others are going over there. But look at how they're on. Clearly, he's not a threat, and is taking that many of you. He can't walk. Where is he going?
Right. And again, I'm thinking about COVID. I see this guy's nose out. He's
how to effectively
this
wear
guy
a
doesn't
mask.
have a mask on. The guy in the wheelchair had a mask on, but his mask was forced off of his face in the tussle.
Exactly.
So now he's like exposed.
Yeah. So interesting. Right there. It's not right. So they claim this is a claim because it hasn't been verified. They claim that this guy, he was a convicted felon, and he was taken into custody and had a loaded gun was found in his possession.
Wait, what? So
yes,
it just in that incident that we just watched, they said there was a gun in his possession.
Yes,
during that incident.
But the way they're throwing him around and everything, the gun should have fell out.
Right. I mean, yeah.
And the way they yanked him up and all of that.
So he was a convicted felon.
Yeah. They say most black folks are convicted felons. So
right. It's so tangled, man. There's so many layers of the conversation, and
Sure.
I don't think anything. Well, let me start over. Nothing justifies just kind of violating someone's physical space.
Correct.
Unless they're, a threat to other people. I have a huge problem with the way we're policing in general. So I know the way that I think of things might not be common. It might not be something that a lot of people agree with. I do think that defunding is a good step. A significant, I would say as much as 50% if the Columbus Police Department has a budget of $360 million a year.
Yeah, and I think we need to have that shift and have that conversation. When we say defund it, we just mean reallocate money in other places. We're not saying abolish the police, because there's a commercial going around that right now, a political ad going around saying, "Hey, if you defund the police, it's a scare tactic from the occupant of the White House." I refuse to say his name. You'll always hear me call him the occupant of the White House, because that's what he is. That the occupant of the White House, this campaign is running, where you hear the ring, 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 and the police never show up. They don't do that already in my neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, a shooting could be done, go down, some bodies on the ground, and it still take them forever.
And there's so many other ways that money can be spent in the community to reduce crime, because crime is a response to other brokenness in the community and in the family structure. People, that's never going to be somebody's first option, is to, especially petty crime or crime that's going to put you in harm's way, like the type of, young people carrying guns and violent crimes like that. Nobody has time for that unless that's kind of the only option. Yeah,
and I was speaking to a few officers, not yesterday, about 2 days ago, because they were called to a scene of a crime where they had to play social worker, in a sense. and they aren't social workers, but the lady was mentally ill, and it was a shame. About 12 or 14 of them rolled up, and they were like, yeah, we know this lady, she's like mentally ill, we are here all the time. They shouldn't have to do that. They aren't social workers. They're cruisers. The oath they take, it says to protect and serve. I don't see them doing in this video much of that, but they aren't mental health professionals. They aren't. And
Yeah,
a
they
lot
just
of these
need to-
calls, social worker or something should be sent out there. Someone from Netcare should be sent out there.
Yeah, they need to change that saying from serve and protect to agitate and arrest.
This is why I keep you around, man. This is why I keep you around. One other point I want to hit on, since you kind of brought it up, that the police department here in Columbus, they have a $360+ million annual budget. And when you look at the line items in Columbus's overall budget, which is close to $1 billion, it's just missing $10,000 or $20,000 to make it not be $1 billion. But when you look at it, a lot of people say, well, the schools is only getting a couple million. I believe it's like 2 million. Columbus City schools. What everybody needs to understand about that is, yes, the Columbus City Council should be allocating more money to schools, but the school district here in Columbus isn't funded by the city at all. And so once you discover that, you have to go and look at their actual budget, which I've done, and see how much money they take in and things like that. But either way, money needs to be reallocated. It definitely does. It definitely does.
So who's the school funded by?
The state.
But the police department is funded by the city.
Exactly my point. And the police department takes a third of the budget. But
Where
you know what?
2/3 go? Like
everywhere else to keep the city
like
going.
Utilities and
yeah, right. You get a little bit. You get a little bit. But no, that's
questions that we need to be asking ourselves.
Yes, exactly. But what I'm trying to get to here is this point. I was having a conversation a couple years ago. I'm not going to. It was someone directly involved with the ins and outs at City Hall. That's all I'll say to that. But we had a conversation at this event, and we talked for almost 2 hours. The event was over, and we didn't even realize, because we had gotten into a good discussion. And this person told me that every year the police department comes back and begs for more and more and more money. Case in point, 2 weeks ago, City Council said that we're looking into possible ways to where we could reallocate some of the city's budget that is going to the police departments, how we can allocate it to other places. But then 2 weeks ago, they just went ahead and wrote a little over $1 million check saying, oh, the cruisers need to be upkept and maintained.
Yeah. Everything from cruisers to helicopters. And then we see
$1 million. But you were just talking about the. So what are you doing here? You can't say the city's broke because you just wrote $1 million check, and those cruisers are fairly new within the last 2-3 years because you just brought a whole fleet.
Questions we need to be asking. Where's this money going?
Exactly. And the police department gets more money than the fire department does.
I could see that being.
And don't
justified.
firefighters do much more, do the same amount, and put their lives in dangers the same way?
I would say, yeah, they definitely
more
put their
than
lives in danger as much, if not more than. And I could see a lot of the work that police officers are responding to could probably be more adequately handled by firefighters as well. I think that a lot of people might see a firefighter coming to deal with a mental health issue, obviously, just as an example, there will be less tension. Is the point that I'm getting to. You see a police officer or a firefighter or even a community member come into a conflict or come into somebody having a mental health episode. That's just going to create an environment where people are where there's less tension. Police officers bring a heightened sense of tension. And every time a police officer gets behind me, my heart jumps.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, mine does too. And now that we have to wear a mask as a black guy, I'm already at 10 and 2. My mom taught me growing up, and so did my grandmother. Look, you already have 2 strikes against you from the day you born. My mom was just keeping it 100 with me. A lot of people didn't like that, but she said yes, and she taught me and my other 2 brothers the same thing. You already have 2 strikes against you. One, you're black, and the second is you're a man. We all know 3 strike, you're out the ball game. And you're already down 2, me and you, when the day we're born. So yes, I could recall having my grandmother and her sister in the car. It's been 2 years now, and we were doing Christmas shopping. It was 4 a.m. We coming back from out of town, driving through Polaris on the street, because on the country roads, nobody. We were driving through, not back from Polaris, but driving through Polaris. And it was like 4 a.m. Nobody's coming. We're talking, having a good time. And I'm just cruising on down the road, taking my time. Officer gets behind me. I get over. I figure he needs to get by. It was the sheriff's deputy. Right as I crossed over the Delaware County line into Franklin County, right before I'd done that, he pulled me over and said, "Oh, you... what are you doing?" and all of this. But in her car, her windows wouldn't go down. So I'm at 10 and 2 the whole time. And the moment he walks up to the car, I'm like, look. He's like, can you roll down your window? I said, look, the window doesn't roll down. I'm moving my left hand to the door handle to open up the door for you. Then he's like, can I get your license and registration? I'm like, I'm reaching in my pocket to get my license, because I didn't want to make the wrong move. I don't know what the hell going on.
Yeah, I'm a licensed firearm. I have a license to carry a concealed firearm. So when an officer runs my license plates, that shows up. So, I have some pretty interesting. Interesting time if I should get pulled over, and it's actually not contentious at all. I am pretty much received as a citizen, as a law-abiding citizen, as somebody who knows their rights. And I'm actually not even pulled over, and the only time I've been pulled over in the last 5 years is if I was like clocked by a gun. The road pirates. But if a cop gets behind me and they run my license plates, even if sometimes you'll see a cop and they'll drive up on you aggressive, I'm about to get pulled over. They read my license plates enough, and a lot of times, pretty much all the time, they'll drive off. But in those interactions, when I do deal with a police officer, even when I see him pull up behind me, I get anxiety.
Yeah.
And I am very comfortable talking to officers. I don't fear for my life. I don't fear nothing's going to go wrong, and I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm just saying I've taken classes. I know how they're going to approach me. I know that I am carrying. And even if I'm not, I just know from what I've seen, obviously, that things can go bad, but I'm also ultimately dealing with a human being.
True.
So when I'm in those situations, I'm confident. I'm saying all this to say, I am still aware that I could lose my life in that situation. So just going back to the necessity to have people responding to situations that happen in the community, other than violence, other than something that requires law enforcement, there's a lot of different opportunities, a lot of different, what's the word I'm looking for? People, institutions, things that we can create that can respond to the dynamic. There's so many things that happen in the community, and it's not all of it. The majority of it isn't legal. It's just conflicts.
Yes.
So I think that ultimately, so for us to be able to create the type of unity and a collective voice for us to be able to call out the police and hold them accountable, that's kind of what I'm pushing for now, is between you and I, between each other, for us to be able to communicate with each other, because it came to me yesterday that we're not going to ever be able to demand, because let's not be confused. We have to demand things of the police. We can't ask. But if we can't make requests of each other and get stronger as a collective unit, because they're solid. So we have to be able to be solid.
You see, that's going back to the first conversation we had at the top of the show about leadership, when they said this is the best and the worst thing for this movement right now is that there is no leaders. But that's the worst thing that hurts us, is because you don't have one voice that can compel that people will listen to. When you do get those one or two good cops that can calm their people down for a second, you could come meet in the middle and broker out a deal. You got people shouting at them, fuck 12, without that badge, you'll bitch and a half and all that. No, they're calm. They are addressing and respecting us with peace. So we need to meet them with the same in just this instance. Yeah. But because there's no leadership, so to say.
Are people even in a position to acquiesce to leadership in this climate? I know this is kind of going far, but so we know in like China, that's like a collectivist culture. We're like an individualistic culture. We've seen some of China's growth in the past few decades being the fact that they have started to incorporate some of those individualistic habits or tendencies, some of those things that benefit our capitalistic society. China has started to implement some of those things. So now it seems to me that we kind of need to do a similar thing and pivot to the opposite of what we've the culture we've traditionally like taken a part in. We've traditionally been an individualistic culture. We need to start really working together. We need to start thinking about being a collectivist culture where the bottom line isn't me. The bottom line is us.
Exactly. All right. We'll be right back in just a moment, because we need to have a conversation about why you should be supporting local independent media, but more importantly, Black-owned media. In just a moment. We're back after this.
If you're tired of mainstream media outlets selecting news stories and events that don't appeal to Black America, then become a member of the UnBossed Network today, where we are the voice of Black America and providing coverage of events and news stories that you won't hear anywhere else. Visit theunbossednetwork.com to become a member today.
Hey, everybody. Right now, trying to get Pastor Michael Young on, but you need to be supporting Black-owned media. Please, you need to do it, because without your support, we aren't going to get anywhere. You don't see anybody else having the real, the raw, in-depth critical discussions like me and Kwesi are having right now, and with the people that we are having on this week alone. We've had on civil rights, local activists here in the community, 2 of them. We had on a local reporter to come on and talk about the Columbus City School and why they cut ties with CPD and school resource officers. And that was a critical and pivotal conversation that needed to be had, because people needed to have a better understanding of what was going on. But not only that, man, not just that. With that conversation that we had at that particular moment, that particular time, I don't think people knew what went into a deal like that. And let me tell you, the only reason why they cut ties is because of people like you showing up and protesting at the school board president's house. Because without us linking arms and joining together and going out to protest on her lawn, this never would have happened. Never. We wouldn't have had that conversation. So we need your support. All you have to do is go to www.theunbossednetwork.com to become a member. You can become a member for as low as $50 a year. That's $4.19 a month. That's cheaper than a cup of coffee y'all drink at Starbucks, and you shouldn't be going to Starbucks anyways, but we're not even going to get into that. 13 cents a day. Just support us by any ways, any means necessary, we greatly appreciate it. We certainly do. So we're going to take one more quick pause and reset. And when we come back, we're going to have another in-depth conversation with a local pastor, Pastor Michael Young, about COVID-19 and the Black church. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We're back after this. And remember, Black News is back finally in Columbus.
Welcome to Cardwell Mobile Notary Service. I'm Leandra Cardwell. I run a full-service mobile notary company. We specialize in apostille, loan closings, structured settlements, and more. Wherever you are, I'll be there. Even in your home, I'll be there. At the hospital, I'll be there. Nursing homes, I'll be there. At the library, I'll be there. Coffee shops, you pick, and I'll be there. And yes, even remotely too, I'll be there. Just submit a request on our website. Don't forget to locate us on Facebook and give us a call at 614-999-0149, and I'll be there.
If you're tired of mainstream media outlets selecting news stories and events that don't appeal to Black America, then become a member of the UnBossed Network today, where we are the voice of Black America and providing coverage of events and news stories that you won't hear anywhere else. Visit theunbossednetwork.com to become a member today.
Hey, so right now we are joined and happy to have with us today Pastor Michael Young. How are you doing, Pastor? All right, we're having some difficulties hearing you. Is your mic turned up? Your audio on your phone? Yeah, we're having a bit of technical difficulties hearing you. No. Hey, everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this conversation offline, and we'll roll that in on Monday's show. Black Columbus, we love you. We've had a ball our first week. Tomorrow's going to be an even bigger show that I just don't know what to expect and what's going to come of it, man. But
Tomorrow
we are going to be there bringing it to you live and in person, the raw, the good, the bad.
Show up. Be downtown.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
show up.
It's gonna be one to remember.
Exactly. And please become a member today, because also with membership, there's a bunch of perks to it. Like, for example, the monthly members only call that we have. When I tell a little bit too much information about what's going on behind the scenes and how we do what we do, that's only offered to members. So you want to become a member. This t-shirt, only members can get it for right now. So yeah, we got to hook him up right here. Like, how do I get one? But we'll let you all know. Peace. We love you. As always, Black America and Black Columbus. Remember to keep it real, because your conscience depends on it. I'm out. Holla.
Thank you for watching the Unbought and Unbossed show. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, what's holding you back from smashing the subscribe button? Don't forget to hit the bell to get notified every time we post a new episode. Devontae will be back here every single weekday, breaking down the most important news stories to Black America. We'd love for you to share this episode with your friends and family. And remember, Black America, to keep it real, because your conscience depends on it.
Pretty good voice, pretty good balance.